This next segment, glad you guys are hype. Everybody give me a round of applause. Let's clap it up a little. Like I said, this is a networking thing. These are all, everybody that's come on stage are all my friends, class, brethrens. Like, I'm gonna introduce Jay Upscale first. Jay is a founder of Jay Upscale Marketing and Promotion. He provides marketing service, events, education, and building services. Let me give you go a little deeper. He's sold out the Barclays Center with entertainers. He's brought Chris Brown to Jamaica. He's been all through the Caribbean. And I knew him from playing basketball at Wingate Park in Flatbush. All right, so this is how far back we go. So big up to Jay. And this is my next brethren, Kwadwo, that I've known for 20 plus years. Harvard graduate, all right? And how we met each other through real estate. He bought a building of mine, and he couldn't even, I don't know what happened, but he wound up buying the building but sleeping on, I slept on his couch because I guess he owned the building then, but we were kind of like, and we built a friendship from there on and there on, and he's done, his father and himself started a foundation in Africa called Focus, where they built a hospital in Ghana that helps repair spinal injury. He also trades cocoa throughout the world, and it's deeper than that because he's so passionate about going back to Africa and working with local farmers to make sure they're getting their fair due with the cocoa that they're harvesting. I mean, if you put him to the side and you just mentioned that some farmer's not getting the right value for their cocoa, he goes in and he'll talk to you, so he goes all around. He just came back from Italy just to come here to speak to you guys. So I love this man, he's doing many things. And then my homeboy, I just found out his nickname is PJ, but we call him Peter. When I started my podcast, Two Black Guys with Good Credit, and talk about network, and I love his boldness. He just sent me an email, and he's like, can we meet up? I love what you talk about in your podcast. He volunteered. We've done stuff at Borough Hall. We've done all these great events. Peter put together, choreographed this whole thing, put this all together for me off a whim, just off a call. And he has a fashion line, P96, that does very well. And he knows all of the Afrobeats entertainer. If you follow him on Instagram, you'll see him behind the scenes with everybody. He's not this quiet guy that you see now. So shout out to all you guys for coming here. And I think that you got to know what the theme of this section is. It's called the entrepreneurial hustle, right? So everybody that's inspiring to be an entrepreneur, I think these are the guys that you should ask the questions to and really pick their brains. So I'm going to start off with you, Jay. From Wingate to Barclays Center to Chris Brown, just explain how that journey is and how you got there, and what are some of the tools that you would tell young people in their travel of the same type of entrepreneurial hustle?
I mean, you know, I would just kind of sum up a 2-decade passion and career in just a quick sentence. I think for me it was more about seeing that there was a need for high-end Caribbean / African-American / African events in, I guess, New York. And my mission and my why has always been to elevate the, African and Caribbean culture and music and the people on the world stage. And that was it, So a big part of it was also finding a way that how could we take a lot of our Caribbean dancehall, reggae, basement events, and how could we take it to, places like, Manhattan, and finding the dope clubs in Manhattan, and started to elevate from there, and then, grow the brand.
Excellent. So Kwadwo, I'm going to ask you. When I met Kwadwo, we were both corporate guys. I was Wall Street, no locks, clean cut. Kwadwo was NYU, working in research, and then you went from that to saying, my purpose is greater. You combined it with your nonprofit with Focus, and then Cocoa Passion. So tell me, for a young person that's wanting to transition from like the corporate life to now this entrepreneur life that brings you literally all over the world.
I think for me, I've always just stuck with what I knew I was good at, right? I think if you find something and you hear the word passion thrown around all the time, right? But it's also got to be something that you're good at, right? You could be passionate about something and you have no skill set for it, and it's going to be a very difficult process. So if you stick with something that you're good at, most likely you're going to be one of few people in the world who can actually add value to your community and build it up. And then you wake up every day and you don't feel like you're going to work because you're good at it. It comes naturally to you, right? So you're going to be successful. People out here making a lot of money doing things that they've never even touched on. My background is in epidemiology. I'm a scientist, right? That's what I did for 17 years. You know, when I met Shaun, that's what I was doing. I was getting on the train, going to work every day in an office. But because of some nonprofit work that I was involved in, it brought me back to the continent, and I realized that I was good at helping people figure out what they needed and using my connections and my access to the U.S. to bring it back to the continent. I'm Ghanaian, by the way. Any Ghanaians in here? All right. Okay. Well, the Caribbeans always shout themselves out. We got to do it too, right? Right? So start with what you're good at, develop it, and find out how you can fill a niche or a niche in your community. And next thing you know, you're doing something out there in the world.
Peter, for all you that knows, Peter created a shoe for Nike, and it sold out in 2 weeks. So for the young hustlers out there, kind of give us that journey. And I have a pair that I don't wear. They're glassed and caged, so when they're worth $2 million, I have an original pair of P96 sneakers in my house. Better than Yeezys. We over Yeezys. We into P96s. So Peter, explain to us that journey. Like, how did you get there? And and I also want you to talk about, especially young people, you really utilize social media to grow your brand. Like I said, this quiet guy here follow him on social media. You're gonna see a totally different guy. So explain those two facets. Is it working?
Check, mic check. Check. All right.
Yo.
Check. Here we go. Thank you. Yeah, so, the journey's been long. Shout out to my Ghanaian brother, but I'm representing Nigeria today. Any Nigerians in the building? But no, with the sneakers that you mentioned, I've been building my business, the brand Project 96, for many years now. And there was an opportunity about 5 years ago where I could design a sneaker. Nike was doing a project that I actually pitched myself for that project, and I got selected. And this opportunity, I could have just kept it simple and just designed a sneaker, sold it, and just move on. But I recognized the moment was bigger than just designing a sneaker that I wanted to sell. I felt that I had a community to represent, I had a culture to represent and put on the map. So I did everything possible with that product, because the most important thing is, for me at least with the brand, I use product to tell stories. The story of me being an immigrant kid moving from Lagos, Nigeria, to New York City, the Big Apple, and sharing that story, sharing that with the world I had this big moment with the sneaker, and I got it everywhere. I got it on Burna Boy, Davido, Wizkid, and it's just a share. This panel is called Entrepreneurial Hustle, right? I was messaging, like you talk about social media, I used all of the resources I could. I sent DMs to stylist of the artist, or the friend of the stylist, or the friend of the friend of the stylist. I was sending messages just to get in front of these people, because I felt that I had a story.
Can we snap that? Can everybody snap that? That's the hustle.
Listen, social media is where, the internet has leveled the playing field for a lot of us. And social media, to many of us, it's easy, it comes easy to us. And the most important thing is to think about how to be, a creator and less of a consumer for social media. Yes, you can scroll all day, every day, but the more you can use these platforms to your benefit, people are accessible now more than ever. You could send a DM message, you could, post and let the attention come to you because you have a story to share, you have something to sell to the world. You can do it now more than ever. So for me, it was always finding a way to use social to amplify a lot of the stories I was already telling, getting access to people that I wanted to get access to, and it's been working well for me.
Wonderful. Well, I think you guys give me a quick boo right now, because I only have males on this panelist, and I really should have highlighted some women entrepreneurs, but I have a couple in the building that I want to recognize. Kalita Brewer, who owns Deco Salon. Stand up, please. Woo, woo. She's hustled her way. She does celebrity stylist. She's had her own salon for a couple of years and doing her grinder. And I also recognize my good friend back there, Tracy, and her son, Terrence. It's like a mother and son and daughter business that they do. Stand up. They own Island Burger in Brooklyn. And they're almost like Nick's best friend, partner, business, family thing. And so I just want you to see, like, there's people doing it in all different facets and making it successful, right? So I want to ask a question to you, Jay, because
Sure.
I don't even, like, when I hear your real name, it kind of like, that's your name? Because you have done such a great job branding. Like, everybody tell me if you love this name. His promoter name is Jay Upscale. And, you know, he was Upscale before. There was a trio, and, you know, they all had their own aspirations, went separate ways. And I just love that he just leveraged that and just, you know, kept it moving and went to Jay Upscale and has done great things with that. So even talk about, like, okay, partnering with friends and finding the point where, like, you know what, you got to go separate ways, and how you were able to overcome that and keep moving forward and just brand Jay Upscale to make it like a global brand now.
Well, I mean, the operative word there is brand. What is a brand and what is marketing? And, you know, most people tend to get it confused. And, I mean, I would look at branding as, you know, how do you want the world to see you? What is the emotional connection that you want your customers to feel when they come in contact with your brand or who you are, whether your personal brand or your business? And, you know, the reason why, I mean, my name is Jermaine, but everyone called me Jay.
See, look like, see what I'm saying? Like, Jermaine and Jay Upscale is what I see.
So it was Jay for short. The only reason why Upscale was in there is because back in those days, a lot of people looked at us as blacks and minorities as somewhat inferior, you know, and even the word black, you know, when you have black magic, you think of something negative, or black bald, or the black market, you know what I mean? So we never really had dope spaces where we could enjoy ourselves and party in the city. So I figured that there had to be something more descriptive to my name. So when I have my business, the name of my business automatically described or painted a picture of what to expect. So it was J Upscale Marketing and Promotion. So the abbreviation is JUMP. And when we party,
Drop a bomb.
you know, and when we party as blacks, I mean, we jump up as carnival, you know, we whine and we jump and we wave. So, you know, so the branding part of it was the J Upscale. As you said, had a really cool partnership with 3 friends. But then there becomes a time where sometimes you outgrow certain relationships, whether it be personal, whether it be a boyfriend or girlfriend, whether it be, you know, just business related. And, you know, it just got to a point where I had to make probably one of the hardest decisions of my life. Like, I came from the corporate world in investment banking, and I left a really good paying job, you know, in my early 20s, driving a Jaguar, think I'm the shit, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could say that, but, you know.
It's too late.
You could bleep that, but, you know, I thought I was the man. And I could not, I mean, I'm in the #1 investment banking firm in the world, and I'm not saying that to impress you, but to impress, I guess, upon you, that I still felt like I was wasting my life sitting at a desk. You know, they tell you when to come to work, when to go to lunch, when to go to the bathroom, when you gotta go home. And I mean, I did that for a few years, and I was just like, you know, I can't do this anymore. That's one of those jobs you don't leave. They pay you well, you get bonuses, you move up. But it was just something that was burning inside of me, like, bro, you cannot hand a 9-to-5 to your kids eventually. You know what I mean? I could work from, you know, now until God knows when I retire, and then what? You're telling me I just gave 45, 50 years of my best life to a company? You know what I mean? Like, what if I took 40 years and invested that in myself? And I felt like you are the best. You're the only investment that you have control over. So with no quote-unquote plan, I gave him my 2 years, my 2-week letter of resignation, and I was out. You know? Big up to Ricky, one of my DJs from back in the day.
Welcome.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, just to answer your question, you know, that transition, it was rough. I didn't feel, but, you know, sometimes, and my mentality is, You don't always need a plan. A plan is great. Sometimes you need to put yourself in the situation and figure it out, you know? And that's pretty much, you know, the entrepreneurial journey.
The commitment, congratulations.
Pretty much.
20 years strong. Kwadwo, question for you. I'm a huge fan of education. For all young people that, you know, that want to jump up the box quick and say, you know, I'm ready for the world. I want to quit school. I believe, you know, the secret sauce is continuing to educate yourself and continue to gather as much information as you can. So Kwadwo, you know, my Harvard graduate friend, I want you to talk a little bit about how education has helped you in your entrepreneurial journey, especially as a person of color.
So as an entrepreneur, first you got to believe in yourself, obviously, right? But at the end of the day, guess what? When you sit in front of somebody and asking for money, they're investing in you, okay? As brilliant as your idea may be, you know, something that they could use, you know, the community needs, the world needs. If they don't believe in you, they're not going to do it, no matter, you know, how much money it may make. Why?
And you got to believe in you.
Of course. Well, that's what it starts with, right? When you decide to, you know, leave your job or whatever it is, and you know, Jay's story is not unique. We've all had that moment where we're like, okay, I need to make a decision, but it doesn't have to be like I've got a job one day and then I'm on the street trying to hustle the next day. You got to be smart about it, right? So in my case, for example, you know, as I mentioned, you know, I worked for a hospital for many years. I was a research director at HSS, right up on the Upper East Side, #1 orthopedic hospital in the world. I've seen Kobe Bryant, Vince Carter, all those, you know, they take care of the Giants, the Jets, the Yankees. I've seen all the athletes come through the halls, right? I'm a research director there, a young black research director there, right? Paid well, like Jay said, nice car, nice watch, before I hit 30, right? You know, it's not something that anybody would leave. Why would you leave that, right? There's room for growth. So I took a strategic approach. I said, okay, how can I use all these years of experience, my educational background, but eventually pursue other things that I'm interested in? I loved my job, you know. You don't have to hate your job to become an entrepreneur.
I hated mine, bro. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah, you don't have to hate your job, but it can certainly be something to help as a stepping stone, because look, you still got bills to pay, right? You still got to support yourself. If you end up having a family, you still got to support your family. So if you're single and you hustling, that's one thing, right? But if you have a significant other, marriage, et cetera, how do you continue paying the bills? How do you continue putting a roof over your head? You know, so you don't just completely throw away years of experience you may have, the education you may have that makes you good at one thing, and just wake up and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and pursue other passions. You leverage it. So what I was doing for a hospital for 17 years, I decided to start my own company and do it for myself, right? If I'm doing all this research and bringing these products and these devices and these surgical techniques, you know, for these doctors under a big hospital, why can't I do that for myself, consulting with like smaller doctors who have their own private practices? You know, they need someone like me too, but they're not in a big hospital, right, to be able to do that. So I started with that because, you know, that was my first step. And what that did was it gave me the most valuable thing that any of us have in this room, our own time, right? When you don't have to commit your 9 to 5 or 6 to whatever time to somebody else, and you can actually have the ability and the freedom to create for yourself, that's huge. Time is invaluable. So being a hustler and being an entrepreneur is really about managing your own time and making decisions for yourself to build yourself and not another company, another institution, whatever it is, right? Time is the most valuable thing. You know, when you work for somebody, they put a value on your time. $50 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever it is. There's people making $2,000 an hour, but that's what that company has set as their value for their time, okay? Then if you're an entrepreneur, right, you're setting your own value. Either you're putting a product out there or you're providing a service that you define and put the value on. So it's a process, right? get educated so that you can sit in a room and talk to folks who are going to support you, right? One of the biggest assets I have, sure, I went to some, good schools, but I could sit in a room, clearly express an idea or a vision, and people see that, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. You can't sit in front of people and ask for $100,000 or $10 million if they don't believe in you. So investing in yourself is, I think, to the point of Shaun's question, is important so that when you're ready to make the next move, you've got the confidence in yourself and people have confidence in yourself, in you as well.
100%.
I think to sum up what Jay and Kwadwo are saying, I'm going to get to you in a second, Peter, is that, I meet a lot of young people that'll come right to my face and say things and they can't articulate it out. They can't express it out. They can't sell it to me, no matter how much they have an idea. So if you're not looking to educate yourself, to be able to articulate yourself, I speak to Jay. Jay and I have a powwow talk every 4 months, and we just lock it out. Kwadwo and I have the same kind of talk every few months. And our education allows you to articulate, express yourself, say your words. And if you can't do that, you're going to have to represent yourself and speak for yourself, no matter how great an idea you have. Unless, then you're going to have to pay somebody to do that for you, and that person is more than likely to take advantage of you. So if anything, when you think about education, it's really building up those skills so that you can be a good communicator.
I mean, even Peter just said, in not so direct terms, that one of probably the most or the best skill that you can acquire is the art of storytelling. That is probably the biggest takeaway for me. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, marketing, anything you do, what is marketing? It's clarity in messaging.
Content is a new gold.
You know what I'm saying?
If you can tell a good story and you're a good content creator, that's the new,
huge,
you dug and you found oil, you found gold. That is a new gold. So it's a skill set that 20 years ago I'd be like, what do I need a storyteller for? Write a book. But now I would love to have a storyteller with me that can tell today's story.
100%.
Because someone's going to break this story down on Instagram and make it feel like it was an amazing, I should have to be here event. It's the new gold. So
I mean, some of the top social media influencers tell good stories. They can articulate themselves really well. Correct. And it doesn't mean that you speak the Queen's language, but you can engage.
You can connect.
Connect.
Leading right to you, mister. How do you navigate around your social media? How do you connect? And then also, for a lot of young people, starting a fashion line, how difficult is that as well? So you got 2 questions you got to answer.
Yeah, I think they're actually intertwined a bit. For the brand the fashion brand for me is a vehicle to tell my story. So it's already very much rooted in just being able to share
What's your story?
The story with the world. So just for context, I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, like I mentioned earlier, Nigerians in the building. Got this opportunity by way of winning a visa lottery, actually, moved to America, New York City. And coming to New York, I was just uprooted from all of the ways and pillars of community that I had access to, from your church friends to your, high school friends to, just your neighborhood friends. I was uprooted from that and, made it across the pond and moved to New York City. And for me, just that culture shock of coming to New York it made me feel displaced. And I was just I need to find my community. I need to find the people who like the music that I liked, who liked the food that I liked, just embodied this culture that I had an affinity and appreciation for. I couldn't find that. So it was this constant quest of trying to find that. And I came to a realization that, it's not for me to find it, it's for me to create it. So for me, I was just always on this.
We need a bomb for that one.
Okay. It's not like I needed it, I could find it. If I couldn't find it, I needed to create it. So even this right here is a quest. It's the product of years and years of building community. So the brand, again, yes, it's fashion at the root of it because that's what I had access to out the gate. I knew I saw some thrift stores. I was like, oh, okay, you can find clothing at a cheaper price, name brand, designer clothing at a cheaper price. And so what I first did was I would buy it and then I would resell it because, people were trying to find this similar, clothing items, but I had access to all the thrift stores in the city, so I'd buy it and then resell it. So that was my first access point. Then I realized, oh, wow, why am I buying that when I could just also create it? So then I started to study, educate myself in where are these people making their products from. So for me, I was just like, okay, let me find that out, attach just this culture understanding of being Nigerian, wanting to share that with the world. And again, like I know a lot of people might listen to Afro beats now, but like a lot of it is just like rooted in African culture. So that story is what makes the brand even worthwhile, and there's value to it, because people who might not know how to access this culture that I'm talking about, they can access it through the brand, through the events that we're doing, through coming to the Met. It's like now people get to see we could be at the Met as a culture, as Africans, as a kid from Nigeria.
We could be at the Met. Everybody gives a clown. We can be at the Met, right?
Mets. Like, that's amazing, right?
We can be at the Met.
So even though fashion was the launch pad, for me, it's more about, bridging cultures, bringing this culture on the global stage. And, I get to do that by, building this community and sharing this culture with the world.
Yeah, and I want you guys to understand the entrepreneurial journey is long, it's hard, it's lonely, it's very lonely, but if you commit to it, there's success down the road.
And I mean, there's no one magic pill. Look at three of us, three totally different paths, chose to go at it in three totally different ways.
Correct. Like, I started this nonprofit in 2016, and my dream was always to bring young people together and talk about business and financial literacy and give them the tools that I wasn't given when I was young. I learned, a lot of us sitting here, most of us sitting, we learned through trial and error, just navigating. And I wanted to make sure that young people had the opportunity to know things beforehand, and so they could then do better than me. My goal is that everybody in this room succeeds everybody at this panel. And this is my dream, that I was able to put something together like this at the Met. But it took 8 years of working with Good Shepherd servers, working with Ben, building relationships with different people to be able to just say, like, this whole thing was put together off me just making calls. Jay, I need you. Kwadwo, I need you. Peter, I need you. Nigel, I need you. And that's what networking, entrepreneurship will give you if you plant the right seeds and you build up. So I know we got to cut out soon. I just want you guys to tell me about, like, inspiration and mentors, and just like to help you navigate in your entrepreneur. What motivates, what keeps you up, what grinds you out and does that thing. So I'll start with you, Jay, and then we'll go down the line.
I'll make mine quick. Something that growing up, I'm from St. Lucia, but I do some of the biggest Jamaican Trini events in the world. The really cool thing, and for me, the life hack that I found, which is crazy. Growing up, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't grow up with my father. I didn't grow up with my mother. I had to figure it out all my life. You know what I mean? What became my mentor was actually reading. And I know, growing up, they tell you, reading, but here's a hack, right? I don't necessarily read books per se. I do audiobooks. That to me is crazy. Think about this for a second. I subscribe to an app called Audible, right? Or it could be Apple Books, whatever. I have an Android, so I don't know about Apple. And think about this for a second. Somebody who experienced life, 40 years of their life, trial and error, they lost a lot of money. They figured out the blueprint. Now think about this for a second. That person decides to take 40 years of their life and condense it into about 12 hours and sells a book for $10.99. You literally was able to bypass all the things that they went through for $10.99. The way we learn is so different. Back in the day, it used to be encyclopedias. You had to go to college. You had to, and I'm not knocking college, but now with AI and our access to knowledge, is so different. So once I realized it and it clicked, my New Year resolution about maybe 8 years ago was that, yo, I'm studying wealth, and I'm trying to consume at least one book a week. That was my goal. You know what I mean? And I did that, and I stopped, but through audiobooks, it's much faster. And, you know, I'll conclude by saying, you know, smart people learn from their own mistakes. Wise men learn from the mistakes of others. Don't learn from your own mistakes. That's linear. It will cost too much. See what others are doing and implement a concept called who, not how. When we grow up, we learn, everyone tell you, go learn how to do something. All right, you got to go on YouTube, you got to do this, you got to do that. A hack is to say, all right, if I'm going to do something that I've never done, instead of thinking how I'm going to do it, think of who can help me do that. Once you find that who, that person will bring the how with them. You know what I mean? And that is the craziest hack. So you literally just shaved 10 years of trying to figure it out, trial and error. Okay, so for example, when I want to learn about credit and finance and getting a building, that's my who. I'm not trying to go online and I'm going to educate myself, but that's my who. Bro, show me exactly how to get it done. When I want to go become the cocoa man and go learn how to, you know, that's my who. When I want to know how to introduce a product to society, Peter's my who. You know what I mean? So who, not how, and getting into audiobooks or getting into a lot of reading. When you study success, that's the first thing they do. Health, a lot of wealthy people, health, and they read like a ton of books. So that's my thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kwadwo, I just want to end you with yours and Peter real quick, and then we'll exit. Go ahead. You got 2 seconds, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I think, and Shaun, thanks for putting this together. I think this is great. Being able to, I think, share with the young audience is good. You know, network is important. This is what, you know, pretty much Jay was getting at. You know, you always hear that your net worth is your network, right? So get out to events like this, talk to people, don't be afraid to open your mouth, ask questions, because that who could be standing right in front of you, right? Which will tell you how you can get to the next step. So I think just to piggyback of what Jay was saying is, you know, your network, get out there, talk to people, meet people, but read, educate yourself so that when that moment comes, you can articulate yourself, they can understand what your goals are, and they can help you get to the next step.
Close it out, Peter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing else I want to add to that. I mean, beyond just the network. But I really just want to give Shaun his flowers one more time. You know, I think about just like 6-7 years ago when, you know, he had this podcast called Two Black Guys with Good Credit. And he's my mentor, by the way, if it's not clear. Shaun is my mentor. You know, he had this podcast. I sent a cold email or somehow found his contact. I sent a message, and I'm like, yo, two black guys.
Reach out to my stylist.
Yeah, yeah, two black guys with good credit? What? I never heard that before. Cool. Let me find out what this is about. He invited me to his home. You know, later that summer, I had this panel, you know, event and invited him to that panel discussion. Then he goes and says, yo, this is amazing. Let's find a way to do this consistently. I hustled, found spaces across the city, Brooklyn, you know, some mom and pop shops where we could program, teach financial literacy to young adults in the city. We did that for about a year. Then Microsoft hits us up, says, come to the flagship in the city. Then Galvanize hits us up, do it in the city. Then the Borough Hall hits us up, let's do it. 500 plus people do it. Then the pandemic hit. But I just want to you know, give Shaun the flowers for welcoming me into his space and just being a mentor to me. So yeah, your network is your net worth. So it's beautiful to be here at the Met, to be able to do this and share this knowledge with you all. So thank you all for coming out.
Yo, let's make some noise for our incredible, the Entrepreneurship Hustle panel. Shaun, I'm gonna ask you to stay on stage, brother.